Tonight, a family wants answers after the death of this 41-year-old man. Police say he was found shot in his car in the middle of the day along Anderson Street in Orlando.
This is a heartbreaking story about a shooting that took the life of a man named Eloy Lebron. The police conducted interviews with 2 witnesses, hoping to gather information that would help them solve the case. Unbeknownst to the investigators, they were actually interviewing the individuals responsible for the crime. One of the women, who couldn't control her words, ended up revealing crucial details that ultimately led to their arrest. It was a Thursday evening on July 23, 2020, in Orlando, Florida. The Lebron family received an unexpected knock at their door, only to discover the tragic news. When the police arrived at the scene, they found Eloy Lebron, their son, dead in his car. Earlier that day, Eloy and his friend were driving on West Anderson Street and Jernigan Avenue around 12:30 p.m. Suddenly, a car sped past them and shots were fired from the vehicle. Eloy's friend managed to duck down and avoid getting hurt, but Eloy, who was driving, was struck by the gunfire. The police immediately launched an investigation, starting with interviews of eyewitnesses at the scene. They began by speaking to Eloy's friend, who revealed that the incident happened unexpectedly, catching them off guard. In a matter of moments, their peaceful drive down the street took a terrifying turn. A car pulled up alongside them, and a barrage of bullets rained down. According to Eloy's friend, the shots originated from a 2004 Saturn Ion. As the police spoke to more witnesses, their accounts confirmed that the Saturn was indeed the source of the gunfire. Some witnesses mentioned seeing 2 young girls with guns, while others noted a girl and a boy, with only the boy holding a firearm. Fortunately, a security camera positioned on a nearby street captured the entire incident. The footage revealed that the Saturn was initially driving in the opposite direction of Eloy's car, a Toyota Tacoma. Suddenly, the Saturn executed a sharp U-turn, aggressively following Eloy. The Saturn then accelerated and changed lanes to overtake Eloy's car, unleashing a barrage of gunshots in the process. The video footage also captured the license plate number of the car involved and the person driving it. It turned out to be a woman wearing a white tank top. The following day, law enforcement pulled over a 2004 Saturn Ion with matching plates. Inside the vehicle were a woman, her daughter, and another family member. All 3 women were taken in for questioning. One of the individuals taken in for questioning was 19-year-old Marquia and Jaria Hamilton. Marquia worked at Sonny's, a barbecue restaurant in Orlando, and had an interest in joining the military. When brought into the interrogation room, Marquia appeared surprised when told she was being investigated for a murder. She denied any involvement, asking what she had to do with it. During the interrogation, Marquia was questioned by 2 detectives, Detective Overfield, who was leading the case, and Detective Sprague, who was assisting him. They apologized for the wait and began gathering preliminary information about Marquia. We learned that Marquia has a boyfriend named Brandon, and she also has a suspended driver's license. The detectives then swear her in, and the atmosphere in the room noticeably changes. Detective Overfield gets straight to the point and asks Marquia about her recent work schedule. She initially says she worked on Wednesday, the day before the incident, from 4 to 9 p.m. However, when questioned about the day of the shooting, Marquia corrects herself, stating that she actually worked on Thursday from 4 to 9 p.m. and had Wednesday off. This discrepancy raises suspicion, as it seems odd to forget the day before such a significant event. Marquia further explains that she woke up at her boyfriend's house around 12 p.m. on the day in question. Her cousin Sharia, who usually drives her mother's Saturn, picked her up. Marquia clarifies that Sharia drives the car more often than she does, as her boyfriend has a car and usually provides transportation for her. Marquia gets picked up by her cousin Jaria, and since she needs to be at work by 4 p.m., they decide to kill some time by smoking before her shift. They drive to Molly World, a place located on Jernigan Avenue and West Anderson Street. However, things become a bit unclear from this point. According to Marquia, when they arrived in the neighborhood, they noticed a man running down the sidewalk. This caught their attention, and moments later they heard gunshots. They quickly left the area, nearly crashing into a white truck and even driving the wrong way down a one-way street, before eventually reaching Marquia's residence a few blocks away. Strangely, she didn't mention where the gunshots came from initially. Marquia then proceeds to describe the events that followed. She went to her house, washed her work clothes, smoked at the park, and eventually made her way to work. After work, Jaria picked up Marquia and took her to Brandon's house, where they smoked again before returning home. Marquia's alibi for Thursday, July 23, 2020, continued to change multiple times during the investigators' questioning. At one point, she claimed that she was actually picked up from work by Jaria's sister, not Jaria herself. She explained that Jaria's sister had gone to the hospital and discovered she was pregnant. This detail seemed significant and difficult to forget. Later, Marquia mentioned that she didn't go to her boyfriend's house and instead went straight home with Jaria's sister. The detective speculated that Marquia and Jaria may have been passengers in the car, trying to protect the men involved in the shooting. The investigators explored the possibility that someone other than Marquia and Jaria were responsible for the crime, but Marquia provided limited information. She mentioned names of men she knew, including her own brother and a man named Scotty, who was involved with Jaria and believed to be the father of her child. Detective Sprague asked if Maria or Jaria had been involved in any revenge or conflicts with the men mentioned earlier. Marquia denied any involvement and claimed she had nothing to do with their affairs. However, the detective persisted, mentioning that multiple witnesses had seen gunshots coming from their car. It later became clear that the detectives purposely focused on eyewitness reports and not the video evidence that clearly showed Marquia and Jaria at the scene with gunshots originating from their car. This tactic was intended to challenge Marquia's defense, suggesting that she was lying. Ultimately, when the jury saw the undeniable video footage, it would expose any false stories Marquia had concocted and further implicate her in Eloy's murder. Marquia continued to deny her involvement multiple times. Detective Sprague informed Marquia that multiple witnesses had claimed the shots came from her car, but Marquia continued to deny it. She remained strangely calm throughout the interrogation, even when told that someone's life had been taken as a result. Most of the interrogation focused on logistical details such as the streets Marquia was on and her destination. However, Marquia was uncooperative, claiming she couldn't remember or wasn't paying attention. In the end, with no confession obtained, the detectives concluded the interrogation and took Marquia to the shooting scene to verify her whereabouts. Despite being held for nearly 2 hours, Marquia still refused to admit her involvement. Later, the investigators managed to locate Jaria and brought her in for questioning. Jaria, also 19 years old and a co-worker at Sonny's, had a boyfriend named Scotty and was confirmed to be pregnant, as mentioned in Marquia's earlier testimony. We discovered that Jaria had previously lived in London, England, and faced difficulties transferring her academic credits upon moving to the United States. Consequently, she never completed high school. Furthermore, despite being the driver on the day of the shooting, she technically did not possess a valid driver's license, only holding a learner's permit. Not an ideal situation. During the interrogation, after being sworn in, the detectives informed Jaria that they had already spoken to Marquia. They claimed that Marquia had made certain statements during their drive to the scene, inadvertently indicating their guilt. Allegedly, Marquia admitted that the man they saw running was actually running away from them and had fired back at them with his own gun. When confronted with this accusation, Jaria dismissed it, responding that she never said such a thing. She insisted on sharing her own account, describing how she received a call from Marquia while she was at McDonald's and brought food for herself. After picking up her cousin, Jaria, she went to buy groceries, heard gunshots, and left the area. They then proceeded to wash Marquia's work clothes before taking her to work. Many details in Jaria's story aligned with Marquia's original account, suggesting that they may have coordinated their stories after Marquia's release. However, their false alibis were futile, as the detectives already possessed sufficient evidence linking both of them to the crime. Jaria's questioning aimed to uncover the motive behind the shooting. Detective Braggs directly asked if she was a cold-blooded killer, to which Jaria vehemently denied. The detective then explored various scenarios, seeking a potential explanation that would not brand them as ruthless murderers. There were moments when Jaria pleaded and begged the detectives to reveal the truth. Detective Sprague believed that there must have been a motive behind the girl's decision to shoot someone, while Detective Overfield was ready to apprehend them without further consideration. Detective Sprague hoped that if the girls acknowledged extenuating circumstances, they could negotiate a better outcome in court. However, if they remained silent, the police would interpret it as an act of recklessness, potentially resulting in a life sentence, particularly considering Jaria's pregnancy. Detective Sprague made a heartfelt plea for Jaria to confess and share the complete story, but Jaria chose to stay silent. The detectives expressed their shock and horror as neither Marquia nor Jaria confessed to their crimes, showed any remorse for Eloy's murder, or mentioned his name. A few months later, on September 15, 2020, a 10-page arrest warrant was filed for Marquia by Detective Sprague. Detective Sprague still entertained the possibility that the girls were lying to protect someone else, likely one of their boyfriends. Investigators confirmed that Marquia's boyfriend Brandon had an alibi and was not with them during the incident. However, there were suspicions that Jaria's boyfriend Scotty was present, supporting the theory that the girls were not directly involved in firing any weapons or responsible for Eloy's murder. Rather, they might have been trying to shield Scotty. While they could still be held accountable for lying under oath and being accomplices to a homicide, it was a significant distinction from being responsible for first-degree murder. When asked if Scotty was in the car, Marquia maintained that it was only her and Jaria. However, she did mention that earlier that day, before she was picked up, Jaria was driving around with Scotty and another man named Reggie. This detail was not initially disclosed by Jaria during her interrogation. During the interview, Detective Sprague began to consider the possibility that the shooter was seated in the front passenger seat, with Marquia sitting behind them in the back seat. This could explain why witnesses claim to have seen men in the vehicle. Although Marquia initially dismissed this theory, she made a significant slip-up while discussing her tattoos. She tried to argue that she couldn't be the shooter because her arm tattoos would make her easily identifiable. However, when asked about the timing of getting her tattoos, Marquia visibly flinched and made a correction. Despite her attempt to use it as evidence of innocence, her mistake became a crucial piece of evidence.
When did you get those?
I had like this few weeks ago, I think. But, you know what I'm saying?
You didn't have them before.
No, but this right here would identify.
But you didn't have them before.
I had this one before. Yes.
Not when you stuck that one out the window over the hood of the car. You did not have that.
I did not have this one, no.
Correct. So it wouldn't identify you.
This same one was all
what you just did up over the roof of the car like that, shooting, you did not have that tattoo.
Not only had Marquia lied about having the tattoo on her arm, which she had obtained only a few weeks ago, but her hand motion while describing the shooting matched the description given by one of the witnesses. This marked the moment when the detectives' 2 months of hard work finally paid off. After Marquia demonstrated how she would have fired the gun, it became a crucial piece of evidence for the detectives. They developed a theory that Marquia and Jaria intended to send a message to someone on the street, possibly due to a dispute involving one of their boyfriends or themselves. Their initial intention may not have been to kill, but tragically an innocent man lost his life and they were held responsible. The latest update on Marquia's case was in March 2021, where she was awaiting a pre-trial hearing. Sources indicate that she has been released on bail. Jaria, on the other hand, was arrested in January 2021 and is also out on bail. As of April 2023, Jaria's case is still ongoing, and a verdict is yet to be reached. This case is far from over, and the motive behind the shooting remains unclear. It is uncertain whether it was a revenge killing or if Eloy had been involved in questionable dealings with their acquaintances. One of the key questions remains: what was the motive behind the shooting? Did Eloy have any connection to Marquia or Jaria, or was it a random act of violence? According to Eloy's cousin Williams, there was no known association between Eloy and the girls. He emphasized that Eloy was not just another statistic in the troubling times we live in, but a genuinely good person. Detective Spragg and Overfield were disheartened and frustrated by the cavalier attitudes displayed by Marquia and Jaria during their interrogations. It is truly unsettling how heartless these girls appeared, as they never acknowledged their involvement in Eloy's tragic fate. Even now, as the case continues, new evidence could surface, but based on the current footage and their careless behavior during the homicide investigation, Marquia and Jaria's future looks grim.